Randi Rhodes, winner of the Talkers Magazine Woman of the Year Award. The Randi Rhodes Show on Air America.
You know, I thought the most upsetting thing that would happen to me overnight would be that they voted off Malinda Doolittle. What the hell was that? There is no justice in this country. There is no justice. They didn't like her because she was old. And Jordan is 17. I thought that would be the most injustice I would have to deal with in the last 24 hours. I was wrong. I was wrong. I stand corrected. Have you heard the story about what happened when, way back in the '04s, back in the day when Ashcroft was the Attorney General? Have you heard this sick, twisted story about what actually happened in March 2004? This is the most amazing story. I mean, if you wrote it for a movie, Hollywood would reject it and say, who's going to believe? Who's going to believe that a Attorney General of the United States of America passes power to his deputy because he's having his gallbladder removed, and now he's in intensive care with an unbelievably raging case of... It would be better if it were crabs, but okay, it's bad enough. It's pancreatitis. He just had his gallbladder cut out of his body. He's on morphine drips. He's on Vicodin, I'm sure. He's laying there in intensive care, and now he's got a complication from his surgery. He's got pancreatitis. And, of course, you've got the Deputy Attorney General now acting as Attorney General with all the powers duly transferred to him. And that guy's name for the movie would be, James Comey. Let's pick that name. Sounds cute, right? Oh, I loved Brad Pitt as James Comey. So you got James Comey, who is now given all the power of the Attorney General, while the real Attorney General, John Ashcroft, is recuperating from covering up the breastises of the justices, the statuary, and falling ill and being in intensive care. All right, we got that, right? So this is all March 2004. Now, at that time, let's just call it, for the movie, the Bush administration. Let's just call it that. The Bush administration is engaged in a secret program that is tapping telephones of God knows who, American citizens, peace movement, we don't know who, political enemies, terrorists could be. Don't know, because they're here. According to Giuliani, they're here. And so he's doing this, but without court approval. And a week before the deadline to reauthorize what is already an illegal program, as determined by the Justice Department, his Attorney General and his deputy, a week before the deadline to reauthorize what was an illegal program, the Attorney General, John Ashcroft, meets with his top deputy, let's call him James Comey, and they agree that the program is illegal and should not be reauthorized. Right after that meeting, Ashcroft falls unbelievably ill. James Comey will testify 3 years later that he remembers this night, that this night was one of the most stressful nights of his life. He will never forget this night. He testifies that he told the officials in the White House and in the Vice President's office about the Justice Department's decision on this wiretap program, that it was illegal and that it's going to expire in 2 days. Best to let it lie. Because that's what we always say in the Justice Department, right? We all say, just let it lie. Don't do anything about it. The next night, before the deadline, Comey will testify that at 8 o'clock at night, he's in a car downtown with his security detail. He gets an urgent message on his BlackBerry. He then calls his colleagues at the Justice Department. And that also causes him, this message he gets, causes him to phone the FBI director, Robert Mueller. Mueller? Anybody? Anybody? Comey is told to go to the hospital room of John Ashcroft and to stay there and to not leave under any circumstances. He gets there. Ashcroft's gallbladder has been removed the day before. It's now his 6th day in intensive care, and he's developed pancreatitis. Comey goes into the hallway after seeing the Attorney General in such dire straits, in such a desperately drugged up and sick condition, calls Mueller again. He asks to speak with the head of John Ashcroft's FBI security detail at the hospital. Within minutes, in walks the White House Chief of Staff, Andy Card, and at the time, the White House counsel, Gonzo, with documents in their hand. They go over. They stand by the intensive care gallbladder, minus the gallbladder, surgical patient with the complication pancreatitis, Ashcroft. They stand by his bed. They greet him very briefly, and then Alberto Gonzales tells the drugged-up Attorney General why they're there. They want him to sign off on this illegal warrantless wiretapping program. Ashcroft informs the Chief of Staff of the White House counsel, Alberto Gonzales, that he doesn't think it's legal and that it doesn't matter what he thinks because he is not the Attorney General. There is the Attorney General, he says, and he points to James Comey. Andy Card, the White House Chief of Staff. Alberto Gonzales, the White House counsel. Does not acknowledge James Comey, who's standing there stunned. They walk out of the room. A few minutes later, James Comey gets an angry phone call from the White House Chief of Staff, Andy Card. He demands that Comey meet him at the White House immediately. But James Comey is afraid to go to his own White House alone. He says twice to Andy Card he will not come to the White House without a witness. He will not attend a meeting of Andy Card and Alberto Gonzales without a witness. He contacts the Solicitor General of the United States, Ted Olson, and he says, you have to come with me to this meeting after what I just witnessed. I cannot meet alone without a witness at the White House with the Chief of Staff to the President and the President's counsel. I can't do it alone. This is the acting Attorney General of the United States. Ted Olson says he will go. He meets Comey. He meets the others on his staff over at the Justice Department. And then together, the Solicitor General of the United States and the acting Attorney General go to the White House. They meet with the President's counsel and the President's Chief of Staff, Gonzales and Andy Card, and they tell him he will reauthorize this warrantless wiretapping program. Comey, with the Solicitor General, as his witness, says, I will not sign that. The warrantless wiretapping is then reauthorized without the acting Attorney General's signature, without the sick Attorney General's signature, and without anybody from the Justice Department attesting to the legality of the warrantless wiretap program. Comey then prepares his letter of resignation, intending to resign the next day, which is stunning because Thursday morning, the morning that this happened, a series of al-Qaeda terrorist attacks at a train station happened, which you might recall in Madrid, Spain. Comey says, I want to serve my country, but I can't do it if they're going to break the law. And he says his decision to resign is firm. He testifies, 3 years later, not yesterday, the day before, he testifies that others were prepared to resign. Those others were Director Mueller, director of the FBI, his chief of staff, and about 6 other FBI and Justice Department officials. The next day, Friday, March 12th, President Bush himself asked Comey to come to the Oval Office for a 15-minute meeting. And Comey had to beg him to please meet with the FBI director, Mueller, who's about to resign, right after a terrorist attack in Madrid, Spain. After the meeting, the president overruled White House officials and allowed James Comey to make some changes to the wiretap program, things that would satisfy the legal questions that the Justice Department had. No one knows what those changes were because the Bush administration has never detailed those changes.